Okay, so today's lesson objective, we are going to continue multiplying polynomials, but today we're going to look at what we call special products. So we have some patterns that we're going to learn. So the first pattern we're going to learn is called the square of a binomial, and you've actually already done it, because didn't we just do one of those on our last problem on our 5-a-day? Right? We did one that looked in that similar form. So let's see what happens if I just do it with a generic a and b. So I've got a plus b times a plus b. So if I distribute a times a is a squared, a times b is ab, b times a is still ab, right? We write them alphabetically so we don't miss out on our like terms, and b times b is b squared. So if we combine our like terms in the middle, we end up with a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So it turns out every single time that you have the square of a binomial, your answer is going to be what we call a perfect square trinomial. And so that a squared plus 2ab plus b squared is the pattern for a perfect square trinomial. And then if we do it with the minus, then the pattern is almost the same. It's just now it's a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. So these are the two patterns you have for perfect squares, okay? Okay, so if it's a plus b, your plus sign is all plus signs, right? If it's a minus b, the first thing is a minus, but this one still ends up being plus because a negative times a negative is positive, right? All right. So we can actually use that pattern to kind of take a shortcut to do these problems. Okay, so you can still do this the way that we've been doing it, or you can use the pattern. It doesn't matter which way you do it. So, but today we're going to learn it using the pattern. So if x is my a and 3 is my b, my pattern is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, right? So a squared, I plug in the x for a, so I have x squared, plus 2 times x times 3, that's my 2ab, plus 3 squared. And then you just simplify it. 2 times x times 3 comes out to 6x plus 9. So you can still do it the way we did before, or if you memorize the pattern, you can take a shortcut with the pattern. Okay? Are there questions on what I did there? All right. So on your whiteboards, let's have you guys give this one a try. Okay, so if you guys want to use the pattern and you want to be able to just do it in your head, you square the x, right? I got x squared at the beginning, and I have 6 squared at the end, right? Which is 36. So then I just do x times 6 and double it. So what is that? If I double 6, it's 12. So plus 12x is what's in the middle. And that's all you have to do. Okay, so you can actually do these in your head if you know the pattern. Now, of course, if you don't, you can rewrite it x plus 6 times x plus 6 and do it the way you guys did yesterday's problems, okay? But you can see it'll save you some time if you memorize the pattern, right? Okay. All right, I've got another example for your notes. Okay, so again, this is my A, that's my B. All right, so if I take 2x and I square it, what's 2x times 2x? What's 2x times 2x? 4x squared. Make sure you guys remember that you're also squaring the number, not just the variable, okay? And then 7 times 7 is 49. So that's the other end. And then in the middle, you just do 2x times 7, which is what? 14x, and then double it. 14 times 2 is 28. So you double it and you get 28x. And these are all plus signs on this one, so we just make them all plus signs. All right? Let's try another one on your whiteboards. Yes. All right, so if I take the 5x and I square it, everybody, what's 5x times 5x? 25x squared. And what's 3 times 3? 9. So we're going to have a 9 on the other end. Okay, what's 3 times 5x? 15x. If you double 15, what do you have? 30. So that's what's in the middle. Okay. All right, let's do one with a minus sign now. Okay, this one's for your notes. Okay, so I have x minus 6 squared, and so now my pattern has a minus sign in it. So it's a squared minus 2ab, but it's still plus b squared. So if I take x and I square it, what do I get? Just x squared, right? And what's negative 6 times negative 6? Positive 36. Okay, what is x times negative 6? Negative 6x. And then if I double that, negative 12x. Okay, so it works just the same way whether there's a minus sign or a plus sign. You just have to keep thinking about those minus signs. All right, so on your whiteboards, I'm going to have you guys do this one. Yes. 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 Yep. All right, looks like most of you are getting it. You square the x, you got an x squared. You square the 7, you got a positive 49. And then negative 7 times x, if you double it, is negative 14x. All right, so we've got one more pattern I want to show you guys. This is the sum and difference pattern. The sum and difference pattern. So what that means is you've got the same numbers, but one's got a plus sign and one has a minus sign. And your answer is going to be what we call the difference of squares. Now, when we did our notes yesterday, we had some that worked out this way. Because if I go ahead and distribute a times a, I get a squared. A times negative b, I get negative ab. Here I get another positive ab, excuse me. And then negative b times positive b is negative b squared. So what happens is in the middle here, I've got a negative ab and a positive ab. They cancel each other out. And I'm just left with a squared minus b squared. So when you have a squared minus b squared, that's called the difference of squares. Because difference means what kind of a problem? Subtraction. And I have two squares, don't I? Yeah. So that's called the difference of squares. And again, if you can memorize these patterns, it's going to save you a lot of time. And it's also going to be really important in the next chapter when we start factoring. Because you need to recognize the patterns going the other direction. So, all right. So let's do some examples. This is for your notes. All right. So I'm just got I've got the same, everything's the same, right? I've got an x and an x, and I have a 4 and a 4, and the only thing that is different is that I have one of them's plus, a sum, and the other one's minus, a difference. So I can use the sum and difference pattern. I know it's going to be a squared minus b squared. So in this case, my a is x, so it's going to be x squared minus b squared. And so then that's just x squared minus 16. Is it going to work if I do it the other way, the long way, distributing? It still would work, yeah. All right, so on your whiteboards, I'm going to have you do x plus 8 times x minus 8. Okay, looks like most of you are getting it. I take the x, I square it. I take the 8 and I square it. What's 8 times 8? 64. So the answer is x squared minus 64. All right, another one for your notes. Okay, so I've got p squared plus 8q times p squared minus 8q. So my a squared is going to be p squared times p squared. And then my b squared is going to be 8q squared. So p squared times p squared is actually what? P to the 4th, yeah. And then 8 times 8 is 64. Q times q is q squared. Any questions on how I got there? All right, so on your whiteboards, you're going to do 2x plus 3y times 2x minus 3y. I think so. 3 times 3. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. All right, looks like you guys had it. 2x times 2x is 4x squared, and 3y times 3y is 9y squared. Okay. Let's do some more on our whiteboards. I'll have you guys do this one on your whiteboards. All right, so what's 10 times 10? 100. And what's b times b? B squared. So you can write it that way for these problems. I did have somebody put it in standard form, and that's great too. You could also write it negative b squared plus 100. That's okay as well. All right, here's another one for your whiteboards. Just make sure you didn't forget what we did on the last page. All right, so if I square the x, what do I get? X squared. And if I square the negative 4, what do I get? positive 16, but I got to figure out my middle term. So negative 4 times x is what? Negative 4x, double it, negative 8x. It's still negative, okay? All right, that's all I have for you guys today.